Oh man, I am really bad with getting out these Patreon suggested album reviews. I am so sorry. This one has been requested by General Spinobi, and I friggin' love that username. Real name is Isaac, but I always refer to him as General Spinobi just because it's just fantastic. So anyway, let's talk about the album that he has requested for me to look at. Twofold, Part 1 and Part 2 by Haywyre. So Haywyre it's an EDM ensemble, it's an EDM artist, and I'll be completely honest with you guys. I am not a big fan of EDM music. Closest I'll ever get to EDM is every once in a while I'll listen to like dance style of music, like the guys behind me here, but overall I'm not a big fan of it. Like, I'll listen to like soundtracks of video games, which I feel for me does the same thing. Like EDM, I find for me gets me into a focused mood. Like if I'm playing a video game or reading a book, or like I need to concentrate, I'll listen to that, but it doesn't really hit me as hard as I think it hits a lot of other people. And I mean, that's fine. I mean, not all music is going to be for all people. And this was just a style of music that I was not all that familiar with. So when Spinobi asked me to cover Haywyre, he specifically wanted me to do Twofold Part 2, which had been released a couple years ago in 2006. He says it's really a two-parter with Twofold Part 1 that was released in 2014. And because I'd been very slow at getting this guy up, I'm going to do both. I'm going to do Part 1 and Part 2. Because honestly, for me, both of these albums are kind of interchangeable. Now, I do know that Into the Fold Part 1 is being labeled as more of an EP, and then Twofold Part 2 is more of the full-length album. I do like how the album series opens up with Prologue Part 1 as being a very clean piano work. I really like how it builds up to itself. It gets me pumped up, it gets me ready. But then once we get into the schism, I'm introduced to that EDM music that I hear a lot with some of my friends that really like EDM. But I couldn't really think of anything that like really brought me into the music. Like there wasn't anything that really wanted me to come back to. I didn't really hear too many big build-ups. I didn't hear any big drops. I never found like there was a really crunchy atmosphere. I didn't feel like there was any big moment. It just felt like electronic dance music, and I mean that's essentially what it is at the end of the day. And so I've been listening to this album for quite a while, as well as Part 2, and Part 2 kind of does the same thing with I Am Me and I Am You. Both of these songs doing a really great job of opening up the album. I like how engaging these two songs are. We've got more of an orchestral approach to this. We have a little bit more of songs, and I like the interplay and the dynamics that we have with each of the different sounds that are being created here. But then once we get into like the restraint and impulse and the rest of there, it doesn't grab me as much. Like once the song is over and we're into a next movement, I'm already done with that past work. Like there's nothing really tangible, there's nothing really to grab onto for me. There's never really a moment for me to either cool down or appreciate anything that had happened before. There was nothing to bring me back into the fold whenever a new song was coming up. I did like the playing of styles a little bit. Like I do like how, say for instance, Sculpted from the first album does start off a little bit with like a jazz house kind of a feel, like almost like that lo-fi hip hop feel, but then it slowly kind of goes a little bit into that dubstep with that wow 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 wow. I thought that was kind of an interesting take, and I did like that little playing of styles there. And probably my favorite moment outside of like the opening tracks from both ones are Memory from Part 2. I like a little bit more of the use of like a vocal work within the track mixing. I like how it's got that like that was kind of fun. I liked how interesting, and it did kind of bring me into the music. But then Transient and Endlessly, they're all right, but by that point I'm already kind of like Although I will admit, Endlessly is quite a fun track. I do like how a little bit more engaging it is in that sense. It doesn't really feel like a crystal clear ending. Like I was hoping for something like really to blow down the doors and end it. In the end, this album was alright. The time that I was in it, I don't regret, but I wouldn't actively go back to it. And if I were to listen to this type of music, I'd probably go to something that I'm already familiar with, something from the 90s, like either Fatboy Slim or say Daft Punk Behind Me. And I'd probably give this album a stream. It wasn't completely forgettable, but it wasn't enough to keep me coming back for more as well. But that's about it. So what did you guys think of Twofold, parts 1 and 2? If you've heard it, let me know of your own thoughts about this album. Where should I go to next if I wanted to find some albums that are similar to this? And yeah, thank you so much, General Spinobi, for donating and supporting me on Patreon. If you want to do that and force me to listen to an album and wait endlessly for me to actually get that out, because I know I have a few more Patreon album reviews that I need to get to, so that's going to be fun. Yeah, you've got my Patreon down below. Wow, I'm really good at selling this, huh? Yeah, if you want to donate to me, I'll get it out eventually. Thank you, General Spinobi, again for donating. It really means a lot, and thank you so much. And thank you guys so much for joining me on this. You guys are definitely the best. And until next time, notes out.